Gun, 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 gun. Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bella Gamer, and we're back with another why this mech is awesome, why this license is awesome. This time we're talking about gun, or the Pegasus, for those who don't really understand the meme. This is a weird little guy, a very weird little guy, and a very fun artillery frame. Now, the Pegasus is, I think, by all definitions, probably the memeiest of mechs in the game. I mean, it's Horus, right? But like, there's some Horus mechs that you can take seriously, and there's ones that are the Pegasus. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, and you all will see what I mean pretty quickly. So, taking a look at the stats here, we see a somewhat squishier mech. It has no armor. It has 8 HP, which is not terrible, but it only has 8 evasion, which is average, but for a mech that really doesn't have a lot going for it, especially with its lower repair capacity, we can see here that this mech, you're going to want to invest in at least some hull, because that's going to save your life when you're playing this mech. You need to if you are thinking you're ever going to be hit. And honestly, it's always better to prepare for the worst. Now, like many of the other Horus mechs, it is actually not a bad tech attacker, even though it doesn't have really anything other than just a bonus to tech attack. So that's something to keep in mind. It does have technically the average system points in the game if you take them all together, and do all that stuff. But honestly, it's a bit higher than other mechs, just a little bit though, which is pretty good. And its save target is honestly not that bad, which is very interesting. Speed wise, it's on the low end of average, but that's pretty okay. And yeah, we got pretty much a what you would expect from our artillery mech. Decent sensors, decent save target, good E defense, and honestly, not a bad heat capacity. It's on the upper end of average as well, but a little bit on the squishy side, not the fastest. Its system points, though, are really good, and something I'm going to say for the Pegasus specifically, you want as much systems in this frame as possible, because you're going to regret not doing so, because from the license at least, you won't be able to pick up nearly as much as you would like. But let's go ahead and talk about its frame traits. Gun. Gun. Yeah. It's just a meme. It doesn't do anything. Honestly. It's fun, and I understand that a lot of people enjoy this part, but it is kind of frustrating from someone who's trying to review a product, because I just have to say, yeah, it's a meme. Don't pay attention to it. Now, by the way, I know everything is also very interesting, but not one of my favorite traits in the game. Essentially, what it does is you always get the average roll whenever you do damage. And if you don't know how dice averages work, you essentially take the halfway point and then you add 0.5. So on a d6, for instance, you can see here that it's 1d6 is 4. The average is technically 3.5, but you round up. So you see in 2d6, rather than 8, which would be double of the 1d6, we have 7, because it's 3.5. So you do 3.5, 3.5, you actually get 7. It's not too hard, but if you're not good at math, and they give you the numbers for most of the weapons in the game anyway, so that's not a big deal. This makes the Pegasus the most consistent mech in the game, but also have one of the higher damage caps. Now, it is voluntary, so you don't have to go that way, but it's something to keep in mind nonetheless. Now, weapon mount wise, we actually have some decent weapon mounts here. I would have preferred at least one of the flex mounts being an main ox mount rather than 2 flex mounts, but I'll take 2 flex mounts over a main mount any day. So yeah, and we have a heavy mount in case you want to take any big guns, which, this mech is kind of all designed around. But honestly, the biggest reason why you would pick this frame at all is the systems here. So really the biggest thing is the passive system, which is the Ushabti Omnigun. The Ushabti Omnigun is a gun that always hits, has a range 15, does 1 AP kinetic damage, 3 if you activate it, if you unshackle it as your core power, so using your core point. And nothing in the game prevents this damage in any way, shape, or form. It always hits, it ignores covers, it bypasses immunity, and its damage cannot be reduced in any way. And I'll hide my cam here real quick. No rule in this book or any other supersedes this. So this mech will always be able to do 1 damage to a frame or any enemy once per round, as long as it's standing and as long as it can see it, which is pretty big. And invisibility makes that a little bit harder, but hiding, I guess, technically would make it so you couldn't see. But I think this is supposed to go by invisibility, but doesn't actually state specifically. So yeah, this is the main reason. And the main reason, and it's a free action. It's a free action you can take at any point during your turn. So this makes it, again, the most consistent damaging mech in the game. There's never a round in the game that this mech is not dealing damage, no matter what. Now, there's all kinds of lore, and this is not technically an integrated mount. It's a gun that does not exist, but exists at the same time. It even says in the lore bit here, this weapon technically doesn't even exist. Yeah. It's not mounted on anything specifically, and it can't take the advantage of anything on a mount, and it can't be modified by any talents or anything. This is just, you can just consider this when you're using this mech. Every round you can do 1 damage to a mech within range 15 or any enemy every turn, no matter what. That's the reason why you play this mount on, or use the Pegasus frame. Anyway, but the license is pretty cool, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. So first up, we have a weapon, which you know I always love weapons in the first rank of any of these licenses, and we have the Smart Gun. Now, you might notice this one does have a 2 system point cost, and it does a flat 4 kinetic damage. Now, this is a main rifle with a range of 15. It's also accurate, seeking, and smart. This is one of the best rifles you can get if you have the system points to spare. Due to the flat kinetic damage, critting with this weapon doesn't really do much unless you have a feature that benefits critting. So something to keep in mind, but with how accurate this weapon is and its seeking and smart, most enemies, this is going to be one of the most consistent weapons in the game, but not one of the most high damaging ones in the game. But in an overall combat situation, that's pretty good still. And with the 2 flex mounts that the Pegasus have, you could technically have 2 of these on your mech. Granted, that is a spanking 4 system points, which is quite a lot. But I really do like the Smart Gun, and I don't know, there's not really much more to say about it. It's just a very good, consistent, long-range gun. Hunter Lock is probably the #1 reason why anyone dips into the Pegasus license at all. It's a 2-system quick action where you lock on to the target, and for the rest of the scene, every time you hit that target for the first time in a round, your weapon deals 3 bonus damage. Now, you can't change targets until you kill or destroy the current target, but this is a really good one. This is a very solid one, and you don't have to be the one to kill the target, I should add. It can be anyone on your team, but your target does need to be destroyed, killed first before you can switch targets. Hunter Lock is insanely good. That +3 bonus damage is very consistent and honestly one of the best bonus damage systems in the game. And there's no all they need to do is just be within sensors. That's it. For a quick action, very solid. Hunter Lock is really good. And it's only 2 system points. Honestly, if it was 3 system points, I still think that people would pick this one up. It's just that good. At rank 2, we have the Mimic Gun. And you see a lot of question marks here. And yeah, it's a kind of a complicated one. So this is a very interesting weapon. Now, it is technically a heavy weapon, And that's like the only consistent thing about this. So this weapon is all weapon types at once, which means it can benefit from any talents, but it can't benefit from any mods or any core bonuses that specifically affect weapons. So this is a very strange one, and it gets even stranger when you look at how the damage works. So essentially, at the start of combat, you'll roll 3 d20s, ordering them sequentially as you roll them, and the number on the die represents both the range, and then you divide that by 2, round up to get the damage. Oh, I'm sorry. It's half round up plus 1 to get the damage. After you use the gun, then it goes to the next die that you had rolled, up to the third die that you had rolled, and then cycling back to the first. Now, you can, as a full action, provoke the gun, smashing it a few times or doing whatever. Doing whatever provokes this gun, I guess, to re-roll all the dice. And I'm assuming that you... I don't know, actually, because it goes X, Y, Z. And technically, if you provoke while you're on Y, would you just be on Y on the new set? I'm assuming that's actually the case. I'm not sure. Now, this is a gun. It potentially can have a 20 range and deal 10 damage, or it can have 1 range and do 2 damage. So, I mean, the minimum damage this gun is doing is always going to be good. Like, no matter what, your average roll is going to be around 10, right? 11, 10.5. So 10 or 11, which means range 10, 5 damage gun, pretty good. Can benefit from any talent for any main weapon, pretty good. Mimic gun is a very weird gun, and that's all there is to it. I think this gun on average is really good, and unlike the smart gun, this one doesn't cost systems to utilize. So yeah, I think the mimic gun is good. I think overall for a heavy gun, it is a good gun, but not consistent, which is very strange considering the whole thing of the Pegasus should be about consistency. But like I said, the opportunity to have a 20 range gun that deals 10 damage and it's just a heavy, not even a super heavy, is really good. I don't know. It's a very interesting gun. I think this one works very well. It's just hard to know what to expect from it, which I guess is the point. Also here at rank 2, we get the Eye of Horus. It's 3 system points, but it is pretty decent. And I think I actually had a problem with a similar system. No, it was the inverse. I had a problem with the system that was like a rank 3 that made you invisible, but had all these kind of caveats. This one is 3 system points. You activate it as a quick action, but until the end of your next turn, all characters within sensors don't benefit from the hidden and invisibility against you, and you can check on their HP, evasion, E defense, and their current heat of hostile characters specifically, which is interesting within the same area. Allied characters do not benefit from this effect, so they don't get to see it. This is a pretty okay one. I don't know oftentimes how good this one is, but depending, like, for say if you're gonna go attack like a Smith Shimano like base or factory or something like that, Smith Shimano is well known for having mechs that go invisible. This would be a really good system to take along. And if you're investing in the Pegasus anyway, this is available to you even if you don't normally equip it. So I actually really do like the Eye of Horus. It is a bit of an expensive system expenditure, but honestly, with the effects, I think are worth it. And it's only a quick action to activate it. So, and it lasts until the end of your next turn. This is honestly not bad. I wouldn't take this for most mechs in the game, but I mean, it's one of those things where this is very handy in very niche specific situations, but in those situations, this is going to ensure you're going to do a lot of damage, especially with something like the Pegasus. So overall, Eye of Horus is okay, pretty good. I wouldn't take it on most builds, but situationally, it's very handy. All right, and we are almost done here with the Pegasus. We just got the rank 3, but before we get into it, as always, if you enjoy this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Subscribing will help you get to see this content more often, and liking will help other people get to see this content. And as well, you can check out our Discord, linked in the description below. We do community events. We had a community Lancer build contest not too long ago. So if you want to be in on that kind of fun, I recommend joining. Other than that, thank you for the support for even watching the video this far. Let's go ahead and get to the third rank of the license. The auto gun. Honestly, not bad, and it's only a single system point. It is a main cannon, and honestly, for your Pegasus build, if you're not using the mimic gun, then you're probably going to be using 2 smart guns and 1 auto gun for the most consistent damage every round. Now, this one is also a 15 range. This one is a cannon, though, rather than a rifle. Does 3 kinetic damage. But the most unique thing about this weapon is you don't manually fire it. Instead, at the end of your turn, you can, as a free action, fire the gun. It can't benefit any of your talents or anything like that, but it's a free gunshot you can make every round, which is really good. The auto gun's a very solid one for 1 system point. It does have a little bit less damage than the smart gun, but and it's not nearly as accurate. So they obviously do 2 different things, but the auto gun is really good. Honestly, the auto gun is, I think, something that a lot of people should consider for a lot of their builds, because there's a lot of builds, especially if you're a defender, where your action economy is completely taken up by other actions other than shooting or doing whatever. Having the auto gun ensures that you're also just doing damage every round, because every mech has at least 1 mount, and oftentimes 1 mount that can be a main weapon. So the auto gun is, I think, worth the 3-point investment, even if you use nothing else. That's how good this weapon is. There's so many different mech builds I've seen that could really use the auto gun, and then you just get the benefit of all the other cool Pegasus stuff in addition. There's no reason not to pick up the auto gun, honestly, if you're already 2 ranks into the license. It's just that good. And the final system we have here is the Sisyphus class NHP, one of the very typical NHPs that we find AI at the end of each of the licenses, especially I think in Horus, though every other company has a lot of them as well. Now, this one is only 2 system points. They tend to be 3 system points, so that is pretty good. And this one's a very interesting one because it's a full tech action, which is not so good for, I think, the Pegasus, but really good for some other kinds of mechs. And again, another reason why the auto gun is so good. But it's a full tech action that gives you 2 reactions. And those 2 reactions are triggered by you or any character within sensors would roll a d20. Any d20 for any reason. What you do is you roll 2d20 when you activate the system, and then you save those 2 dice results, and then as a reaction, you can choose one of those dice to swap out for what an enemy would roll, or an ally would roll, for that matter. And the more interesting thing about this is there's nothing here stating you can't use the same result both times. So this gives you essentially an advantage roll on something that you can enforce on an ally or enemy, and it can work inversely. So if you roll really bad, you can make an enemy just roll like garbage. This is really good. I don't like it on the Pegasus because I feel like it diminishes a lot what the Pegasus is about, even though the Pegasus can use this every round and still fire with its Ushabti and fire with an auto gun. So, you know, that's not bad, but I do really like this one on like a support frame or a mech frame in general. So the very interesting thing about the rank 3 of the Pegasus is it's not purely artillery based. It actually is more beneficial on like defenders and support characters and even like hacker characters who are spending their actions doing other kinds of things. Now, bend probability maybe not necessarily as good for those characters, but potentially can be really good. And it's only 2 system points, and it's an AI, which, you know, can do a lot of very interesting things in the game as well. I like the Sisyphus class one, and honestly, of the many rank 3 like systems that I've found in many of the licenses that I just don't like, the Sisyphus is not the worst offender in that category, and honestly is pretty decent, even though it's a full tech action. Honestly, I think, I mean, yeah, I guess the full tech action does make sense. It feels like a lot. I would take one die in a quick action over 2 dice in a full action. But this is what overcharge is for after all. And that's going to be it for the Pegasus. A very fun one. I'm sure many of you are already big Pegasus stands. So, you know, this is probably going to be one of the better videos that I've done for Lancer. Next up, I don't think I even did this last time. Next up, we're doing the Tokugawa. And the last one is the Sunzi. It's really hard to see on this particular screen. But yeah, so we have the Tokugawa. And I know it's been a minute, so we're gonna look at the next one up here, which is gonna be the Kid. So Tokugawa next week probably, and then the Kid probably the week after. So if you're looking forward to either of those 2 mechs, then I'm excited. The Tokugawa is one of the coolest mechs in the game. But that's gonna be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.